More of that standard goodness. Imminent Doom, budget burn. And opponent is going first here. Bad news for us. But I don't mind this hand one bit. I feel like we go Thermo-Alch into Sin Prodder. Sin Prodder is just a fun card that nobody plays. Fortified Village for our opponent. Could be Oketra's Monument Humans. Cycling a cast out. Could be New Perspectives. And you all know how I feel about New Perspectives. Actually, I'm not sure if you do, but I'm in love with New Perspectives. That's sort of what I'm leaning towards right now. Cycle a cast out and no 2. Seems a little suspect. And the grapple. That ain't no New Perspectives I've ever seen. Abzan Delirium? Green-white Delirium? Something that is at least green-white and cares about Graveyard. Well, I guess once WotC hits everything with the banhammer, there's room to experiment. Well, now we're forced to kill this tracker. Tracker a big enough pain in the butt that it makes us feel obligated to get rid of it. Here's tracker number 2. Yep, and this one gets value with the land. So this tracker is here to stay. At least for the moment. Would be nice to draw some burn for it. And we did it. We got there, everyone. That is the name of the game. The name of the game. So our opponent needs that obnoxious hexproof spell here to stop this from being annoying for them. And we get to pass. Alchemist, a Prodder, they get a clue, but we got rid of 2 trackers. That's big game. That is big game. And our opponent's springing to mind here, so we'll find out their third color if there is one. Yeah, which seems like there should be, right? So some form of Bant Ramp. I don't like that because these colors probably have good stuff against a aggressive matchup in their sideboard. So what do we hit with Sin Prodder? Mountain. Yeah. Yeah, opponent, I get it. Good old Menace. And then this is fun. The Archer triggers off of Imminent Doom. So Nissa's Renewal, which this deck likely runs, is the equivalent of just like go back home for our deck. And Fumigate's similarly annoying. Double triggering Imminent Doom is where the fun truly begins, but we're down on resources. So it seems as our opponent, but they have the card advantage with the clues. They're not going to give us something to trigger our Imminent Dooms on with this bombardment. They're traversing for a big threat, though. So it is some form of Bant Delirium, or at least Bant Big Stuff. Linvala the Preserver, another good answer to what we're trying to do here. So our opponent has successfully undone all of our hard work. It seems like a tough value deck for us to penetrate. One, in fact, we may stand no hope of beating. So we can sort of have our cake and eat it too. It's a little bit of a tough spot. I think we have to go to our opponent's dome, but we know about the Linvala. Two drop. We should be so lucky. A 2-drop is pretty sweet. If we can just go 2-drop, 3-drop while our opponent feels like they don't need to deal with our burn. It is a 3-drop. Or a 2-drop. But it sure is at its worst as a 2-drop. I'm of the mind that we must do it that way nonetheless. That's what it's in the deck for. Well, we're giving it the old college try. This seems like a really tough matchup for us. They have a lot of the answers, and they have a lot of a main deck. Here comes Linvala. What does it bring it back to 11? Is it 5 life? Alright, 3-drop. Or another burn from within. Well, we've had our fun, burn players. We have had our fun. That's another fun line. This gives us outs if we can do 4 damage. No, I suppose it still doesn't. We didn't get there with 3-drop anyhow. No answer to Quarantine Field. This deck does have a lot of goodies against us. So now we have to do things the old-fashioned way. So opponent hoping we'll make the obvious double block and get it so they also get their Angel when they eventually cast this Linvala. So yep, back to 11 they go. I don't actually suppose there is a way that we win this, but why scoop it up? Get a little bit more information on what our opponent's running here. So now they're comfortable leaving the Ishkana back as a blocker. While I don't want to scoop, I also don't want to chump, because I'm still pretty positive we're out of this game. Well, 5-tick red, can't beat them all. But our opponent is still happy to give us more information about their game plan. Just Bant top end. Might as well make it sporting. Well, we dealt a lot of damage that game, folks. Now, what do we have in the sideboard for this matchup? Sprays seem necessary. We just have to be that much faster than what our opponent is doing. I like taking the bombardments out, putting the sprays in. And we just need damage to the opponent. Which makes me think the helixes are fine. The helices. Down to Sin Prodder. Down to Helix. Back to business as usual. Yeah, I'm sure that this Imminent Doom brew isn't the mono red deck that makes a difference in Standard, but I feel like there will be one. So I think we keep this. I imagine the real mono red deck won't be so all in on spells like this one is. It'll be more all in on brute strengthening and built to smashing good haste creatures like those on-crop crashers. Following that plan. So basically we're forced to dead our opponent while they're developing. That's the long and short of it. Why don't we walk into a declaration in stone? I don't think we can afford to hold it. I think our plan is so much of let's just try to beat face that if we get deck in stone, we're out of the game. But we have to do 19 damage in like 3 or 4 turns. Our opponent's not going to let us get away with much. We do not have wiggle room. Oh, a good solid card against us. So I think I kind of want to hold the rest of the burn. If both Soulscar Mages made it in, I would have shocked the opponent there. But now I kind of want to get the little bit of value we can get from twiddling Thermo Alchemist if we get to untap with him. And that's where hitting a land drop would be sweetness. Well, we'll make our opponent's cast outs good and our burn less good in the hopes that we can do 1, 2, 3 over the course of this. And we have it in hand. No, I was worried about maybe a sensor coming in, but I think they're aware that it's not the best against burn. Alright, Very few turns left to make something of this. But we get to do 1 and 2 next turn, which is very, very fun. About as fun as it gets. And to turn ping with the Thermo Elk and see what we are up to. Thought about doing it there first, but I think we do cast it here just to maximize our damage. No blocks, then we do the whole thing. So it's a good thing that I have Imminent Doom out every time I forget to hit Control and I cast a spell into my Thermo Alchemist. Gives me a chance to stack these triggers, so doesn't like what they see there with the Imminent Doom. Well, we can't get the value of firing off our 2 now into it, but we do get the 1 trigger. Opponents just gotta spoil the fun, huh? Just got to spoil the fun. Alright, this prompts me to play correctly. Tap my Alk. Hit my opponent for 2 here. I do like bringing in the Helixes against this opponent. Undo a little bit of the life gain. But it's getting to the point now where it's falling out of our reach. It's all up to what our opponent has here. I don't think they're at Linvala, man. It's the Deckenstone, the Sin Prodder. Traverse. Now they get their big guy. Or they get their land. Forsake the clue. I guess that makes sense. I sort of like it. Well, why wait? But I think this is where the run ends, whatever their last card in hand, depending. If it's Linvala, it's really bad for us. Okay. Tap out attack with Lumbering Fall is not the worst for us. Certainly worse things our opponent could be doing. We're live to a lot of stuff here. Put our opponent to 2. And we have lethal on the board if they don't gain life in some way here. Now Linvala comes. Okay, Primal Druid comes down. Well, I'm feeling a little bit better about this unless they can gain life here. So it looks like we still are live to win our game, at least that was on the play. And we'll draw a card, it would have been just a mountain. So we barely got there, and that's sort of what we thought was going to be the case with this matchup. I like the Helixes enough that I'm thinking about bringing in another one, cutting an Imminent Doom, because they have answers to Imminent Doom. Yeah, I don't mind that. I could see an argument for bringing in another Sin Prodder and dropping something else. Maybe one of these sprays, since they were sort of stranded. No, I wouldn't say stranded. I mean, there are some targets, but it's not the craziest thing in the world. It has to be the Tireless Tracker that gets sprayed, and they may have even boarded those out because they're aware of how susceptible those are to sprays and shocks. But shock goes to the opponent's face, Helix goes to the opponent's face, so does Flow, and so does Defiance. So I think this is a better burn package for this matchup. It's a straight up race, and now that they're on the draw, unless their draw is clunky like last time, we're at a tremendous disadvantage here. That said, I don't mind this hand. It's on the more aggressive side of what we can draw into. And it prevents, or rather it presents, repeatable damage. And repeatable damage is, even though it's in little pinpricks with our 1 damage guys, it's good stuff. A little more awkward if we have to play this desert tapped. The Ramunap ruins represent pretty good flood protection because once we get to 5, we always have some way to throw away our future land drops. So the situation where we're so mana flooded that we need to cycle the Deserts of the Fervent hasn't quite come up yet, which could be a point in favor of the deck. It's just yes, and that's what we needed to see. I think we start with the Archer while our opponent does not have blockers. That could change in a big way next turn, but we might be able to Magma Spray any blocker that matters at this stage of the game. That said, we still want to hit an untapped land so that we could Magma Spray and Alchemist. If we don't, we'll just play our tap land and Alchemist. Unless our opponent plays that tracker, in which case we'll probably have to go spray Soulscar Mage. One of the ways we managed to win is clunky mana from our opponent. It looks like they kind of did get choked up a little bit having the traverse there. Spring's going to clear that right up though, but it means they didn't put anything on the board this turn. So we are looking at the Alchemist line here. So again, this matchup is just we try to kick our opponent while they're setting up, and once they set up, they kick us into the dirt. So it seems like a tough one. There's the tracker. I assume untapped land so they can protect it. Seems like good stuff to me. I think we escalate twice, just because our opponent's life total is pretty important. And if this means we're not playing around Censor here, which I don't even think our opponent's running, we are playing around, they sack their clue. And we have another Defiance for another tracker, if that ends up being the case. Alright, opponent. Do your worst. Show us the Fumigate. If they don't have the Fumigate and we manage to cast a couple of spells into our pingers, we're in reasonable shape. Who are you casting out? That is a pretty good question here. The Alchemist it is, eh? That's an interesting call, because I might have taken the Firebrand Archer, considering that's also 2 damage on foot. And it triggers when I drop my enchantments, which this deck has a little bit of a theme of. So what are we sitting at? We do 4. So we do just end the game here? Is that what we're looking at? That is unacceptable. And I do mean that in a good way. It's just unacceptable how hot this deck is running right now. Wow, folks. Well, that matchup looked unfavorable. And somehow 5 ticks, Imminent Doom, Burn still got the job done. The way the format has slowed down, it might be time for a cheap burn deck to really just shine and be a consistent part of the meta that people have to deal with. Of course, I haven't run this through a league yet, but it's looking hot on just normal standard queues, and no pun intended.